Lights blinking on top of the gates. This is race 4 today. Stand by for a start. Stalls are back and they're off and running now, and Matilda bounds clearly to the front. Blondine wants the front though and quickly goes up to head it off, and further out is Bolter. When they settle now, it's Matilda pushing up inside Blondine, and Bolter caught 3 out from Goldberg, from Ildon back on the inside. Volcanicity whipping around the outside from Hartley Bay, back in the centre from Sequello Torelli. A Regal Dane spoken, and last of all Northern Habit. Bolter pushed through to lead at the 1200 metre mark from Volcanicity, back a length, 2.5 Matilda, a half Blondine. 2 further back Goldberg running 5th outside Hartley Bay. On the fence there is Ildon back running 7th, 1.5 Sequello. A length in Torelli the fence, and 2 then Northern Habit on the outside of a Regal Dane, and last of all Spoken. Running to the side at the 900 metre mark, Bolter about 3/4 Volcanicity. A neck further back on the outside, Blondine caught 3 out. A length and a half Matilda over on the inside running 4th. They're followed further back in the race at the head of the others by Goldberg. Back in the centre Hartley Bay, 1 then to Northern Habit. Ildon is positioned back on the fence. A length then Sequello, 2 to Torelli, and further back Spoken, and last of all a Regal Dane. On the turn, 550 metres to go. Bolter from Volcanicity outside it. Just behind those is Matilda defence. Hartley Bay under pressure outside it. Blondine further out. They're followed by Goldberg. Ildon into the clear. Torelli trying to get out, and further back then Sequello. Down at the 300 metre mark, Volcanicity, Bolter both under pressure. And here's Ildon getting out now and starting to lengthen pretty quickly. Further out in the race, Sequello. Then Goldberg, and further back a Regal Dane. But Ildon took the front at the 150. Drew away 2 lengths Sequello. A Regal Dane to 3rd. Then a gap Torelli out late, but it lets down and sprints away this one, Ildon. Ildon wins 3 lengths in the run home, Sequello. 3/4 3rd a Regal Dane. 2 lengths Torelli 4th. Then Goldberg, Volcanicity, further back Bolter. Hartley Bay, Spoken, Northern Habit. Pulling up pretty quickly near the tail here is Blondine, and back there with it is Matilda.
We've already mentioned the fact that Greg Childs is riding in magnificent form, and that was a perfect ride. He settled that horse back midfield on the fence. And this Attalac 3-year-old has come home with a wet sail, getting the split at about the 300. And once it got the split, Joe, there was really no doubt about what the winner of the race was going to be. He let down beautifully over the last 200.
That's right, and I'm sure this win is quite a relief for the stable. They did expect quite an improvement in this horse today, and it's proven that.
Ildon racing away, hands and heels for Greg Childs over the concluding stages. Defeating number 6, Sequello, which has run on pretty well. And I also like the way that little grey fellow, Regal Dane, got home into 3rd placing. So the numbers there are 7, 6 and 10. 4th home was number 5, and that was Torelli. And 5th was number 3, and that's Goldberg. Here's another angle of the finish, and look at Ildon just striding away. Sequello in 2nd placing, and that's in 3rd placing, battling on there, a Regal Dane. You can see him, and look at getting home into 4th placing there, number 5, and that was Torelli, which has run home very strongly over the concluding stages. So it looks as though it might appreciate a distance a little bit longer than the 1600, but you couldn't take anything away from the winner there. And there is that 3-year-old Ildon, trained by Peter Hayes, and you can expect around about $2.90 and $1.60 for Ildon, around $4.80 for Sequello number 6. And if you've had something to place on a Regal Dane, it should pay round about the $4 mark. So the numbers there, 7, 6 and 10. Ildon by Attalac, the winner of the Melbourne Cup back in 1986 here at Flemington, out of a mare called Gadessa, which is by God's Walk. Himself a wonderful sire. Greg Childs, the winning rider. And he is a sensational rider at his top, and that's just what we've seen of him over the last few months here in Melbourne. Greg Childs, he always has the horses in a place to win, and I'm sure Gary Fennessy, the stable foreman for Peter Hayes, would agree with that. He's with Anthony Method.
Yeah, well done, Gary. Pretty impressive performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a good performance, you know, against sort of I don't know if the opposition were all that strong, but you can only win, and he done the job very well.
He looks as though he got over a bit of ground. What are his plans?
Yeah, well, that's the reason we jumped him straight 2nd up in the 40, the mile, is because he's actually too slow. You know, he's bred to run a bit of a trip, so, you know, something like the South Australian Derby, or, you know, we might even aim a bit higher if he keeps improving.
So that's the aim for the autumn, perhaps? Will he pick up any races over here along the way? What have you got him aimed at over here for the autumn?
I will just pick a 2,000 metre race out now, just to see what his sustainability is like. And if he sort of goes like we think he'll go, you know, he could measure up to a South Australian Derby or a Queensland Derby or something like that.
Maybe a Melbourne Cup winner down the track, you never know.
Oh, you never know.
Good on you. Thanks for joining us, Gary.
Yeah.
Gary Fennessy, the stable foreman for Peter Hayes, and that horse, impressive Ildon, and maybe bigger things in store for him. Perhaps the Derbies a little bit later on in 1990.